Hello and welcome to our presentation on our paper entitled FLÄVIZ in the rezoning process. The paper will be presented by both authors, Lorenz and Wurzer, and myself, Wolfgang Lorenz. We are both from the Vienna Institute of Digital Architecture and Planning. The subtitle already says what it is all about: a web application to visualize alternatives of land use planning. We'll present the current stage of research, which mainly offers a framework. The first objective concerns a user-friendly 3D visualization, and the second objective concerns simulation. So, what is FLÄVIZ? In short, FLÄVIZ is the name of a 3D application that visualizes proposed changes to land use and zoning plans. The idea is to quickly switch between different proposed changes. As you can see on this slide, the user simply clicks on different variants. That means the web application at first visualizes existing and proposed 3D data. In addition to visualization, the application should also show the effects of such changes on its surrounding. That means FLÄVIZ also serves as the basis for possible simulations. Simulations that make different decisions quantifiable and thus objectively comparable. Up to now, FLÄVIZ is mainly a framework with two advantages. First, it is based on open source data and open source programs. And second, it is simple and transparent in its implementation. But what's the basic problem? Like other cities, Vienna has land use and zoning plans. These plans limit the volume and define the type of building, including construction classes and construction lines. Such regulations should guarantee an orderly future development. But sometimes it is necessary to rethink and to adapt the plans for actual or new developments. However, Vienna citizens are not part of this process. They can only express their opinion without any consequences. But even that is not easy. This is because the representations of changes in land use and zoning plans are 2D plans and written texts. For the layperson, such documents are difficult to read and to understand. So if civic participation should be promoted, the representation must be changed. Changed, for example, to a 3D visualization that can be better understood. The second point concerns the question of who can recognize and assess the consequences at all. So that's why we are basically looking for a quantifiable representation. On this slide we see the three parts of FLÄVIZ: the data source, the simulation and the representation. The main part of the application is formed by open source data that comes from authorities. The Vienna City Administration, for example, provides 3D data of all buildings of the city. Currently, that includes around 200,000 buildings with more than 650,000 building volumes. The authorities also provide the 3D data of the terrain as triangulation. Proposed changes to land use and zoning plans are added to the available data by simply visualizing a volume. In the current version, restrictions due to legal requirements are neglected. Therefore, the 3D volume of the proposed changes is simply based on the maximum possible and not on the actual possible. In more detail, the model comprises several aspects. First, the availability of basic data is crucial. In Vienna, we have free access to the LOD2 data of all buildings. In short, the as-is state is available in 3D, including rooftops. The same applies to the terrain. Second, the ease of use and expandability of the application is also important. That's why we use Three.js. Three.js is a JavaScript library for displaying 3D graphics in a web browser. And it's open source. So data and basic software are free available. Three.js also allows us to incorporate simulations as add-ons. Simulations are important to answer certain questions, for example, what-if questions. In short, the result should expand the standard parameters of the urban control parameters. So the goal of the application is to better understand proposed changes. And why is that important? This is important because land use and zoning plans are designed to help maintain quality of life. And the quality of life is influenced by many factors. One factor concerns daylight, which means that residents should have access to daylight regardless of legal requirements. Another factor concerns viewing and visibility, which is not even subject to legal requirements. The population density is another influence that also includes social aspects. Building along traffic routes and public transport seems to be tempting for developers. However, this carries the risk of noisy apartments. Parking lots, wind, flooding, circulation and solar radiation are also influencing factors. In all of these areas, simulations can help to make the right decisions. The visualization of dynamic factors enables a quality assessment of several variants. But how can the simulation reach this point, since speed is an important issue? As a first step, we suggest voxelization. Voxelization means that agent-based simulation is carried out in a discrete world. In this way, additional information can easily be stored in each voxel. We have already made good experience with voxelization in NetLogo, an agent-based simulation programming language. And this experience should now find its way to Three.js. Voxelization is a kind of simplification that speeds up the process to get faster results. But since potentials should be compared, an estimate is fine for the moment. Alternatives are currently hard-coded. This is because a limited number of options should be shown to avoid confusion. However, future work will deal with a simple drawing tool. This will allow laypeople to insert their own suggestions. A parametric implementation is also conceivable. However, this means dealing with a ranking of the previous mentioned factors. Finally, future work has to deal with the question of what is a good solution at all. So, what is the advantage of the proposed framework? First, citizens get a deeper understanding of the land use and zoning plan. This is especially important for participation. Second, developers can refer to hard facts, not vague arguments, and it leads to a transparent valuation of the property. Third, the authorities can test alternatives in advance, that is, before investors come into play. But it also means that many things can be discussed in advance, for example, the influence on heat islands, and this time based on values. We are aware that this is only a starting point, it is a framework. The technical basis is defined and the implementation has started rudimentary. We know that there is still a long way to go to implement all the promised opportunities. Therefore, cooperation is of course welcome. So please contact us if you are interested. Thanks for watching our presentation and looking forward for a fruitful discussion during the conference.